smart cities is at the nice end of the spectrum. Our cities should be nice places to live in once you're living there, but there's a process of making it harder for people to live anywhere else. And so resources are pulled from remote areas. This is an Uber policy that has transcended the coming and going of governments for all that time, that are gradually wanting to concentrate the populations in the big cities because they're easier to manage and easier to administrate, and it's more economical to have healthcare provision for a massive city than for a great big region. It'll save the government heaps of money if we all just live into cities. And smart cities might be a way of making that more pleasant. But if the big agenda is that we become more infantilized, more dependent, less able to live off the land, less self-sufficient, and this became a great concern during the recent health emergency when we suddenly had to look at our supply chains, and a lot of people realized they didn't have the wherewithal to grow their own food in the way that their parents did, in the way their grandparents did. And I think that's something very worthwhile looking at. We can go back to the Enclosure Acts in Britain and around Europe that moved people out of family-based farming, community-based farming, to living in the cities. There was this great urbanization that happened, which then fueled the Industrial Revolution. Now we've got big cities, people living in tenements, people working for money, and that farming land was given out to the wealthy. So you've created a new elite of landowners with those Enclosure Acts, and you've urbanized everybody else. So there are lots of examples. In the Invasion of Eden, I go to ancient Hawaii, and there's ancestral story of exactly the same thing happening there when the Mo'o invaded, and the Ahumanu. And these are stories of draconic entities in the deep past who came. And I was expecting to hear, this is stories of dragons, there'll be maidens being kidnapped and people being eaten, and was surprised to hear that what those stories are actually about is all the kinds of social shifts that I've just been talking about. This separation of people from land and independence, and an infantilization of the property, and an enslavement through a money system. Once you're working for money, you're working for those who issue the money. And I noted in my research for the Invasion of Eden that in Britain, if I mentioned the pound, sterling, you think, wow, there's a strong currency. And yet between 1800 and 2023, the pound that everyone was being paid with was devalued by 99.032%. And I'm not sure that wage growth has kept up with all those changes in all that time. It's not been all a nightmare, but you get my point, that when you're working for currency, you're very vulnerable.